This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Granic Allen. We're back with our current events panel and lots of commentary on the latest headlines. Tonight, we'll look at controversy in British Columbia, where the teachers' union is facing criticism over reports it has replaced references to Canada Day in some materials, raising questions about how national identity is being framed in schools. We'll also head to Windsor, where the Gordie Howe International Bridge continues to face delays and rising costs, despite years of construction, repeated promises of a smooth cross-border link. It's done, it's ready to go. Where's the bridge? At the federal level, Canada's long-delayed Foreign Influence Transparency Registry is finally set to launch in August 2026. Supporters call it a needed safeguard for democracy, while critics question how effective it will actually be. And finally, in Ontario, a couple is caught in a dispute after ancestral remains were found on their property while a digging was going on for renovations. And it's triggered heritage protections. It triggered a whole set of rules about how we need to treat these bones. But ultimately, this could cost the couple upwards of $1 million. Lots to get through. Joining me now is Michelle Simard, lawyer, privacy and cybersecurity specialist, and Mike Patton, political commentator. Michelle and Mike, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start with the Gordie Howe Bridge. Mike, why don't you start us off? Okay, so this bridge, I said in my opener that it rising cost, yes, it was a ballooning cost like anything generally is in this country as we let the government build things, fine. But it's ready. It's been ready for a long time. Why aren't people crossing it?
Well, poor Gordie Howe, has he not suffered enough? It's so the Rainbow Bridge crossing between Windsor and Detroit is the busiest land crossing in North America. And for years, we've needed a second land crossing across between Windsor and Detroit, and that generated a bridge. This bridge, the Gordie Howe Bridge, is owned in part by the Ontario government, the Canadian government, and the Michigan government. Whereas the Rainbow Bridge is owned privately by friends of Donald Trump, who are now concerned that if a second bridge is in fact open, they will lose revenue.
Okay, so Michelle, when I was investigating this issue, this is a pretty, in my opinion, from what I see, maybe there's other stuff going on in the background that I'm not privy to, but it seems like a pretty black and white case of influence in the federal U.S. government, where these donors who've donated quite a bit to Donald Trump's campaign have been encouraging him not to open this bridge because it's still not open, and it's despite it being ready.
Yeah, so really what it boils down to is there's influence, and also Donald Trump's using it as a negotiating tool with the Canadian government prior to CUSMA. We've also found out that CUSMA is not being renewed. So he's going to use this as another negotiating tool in order for him to discuss some of the issues that are going to happen. Now, we keep hearing it's going to keep coming. Obviously, like you've mentioned, that he has his donors sort of going to keep pushing because it's going to influence. And to be honest, I think there are some issues here where it's just it's there, it's available, but maybe it should be used for a different aspect. Maybe it should be used where like for instance, only trucks go through there. All transports, and this way you can get rid of a lot of the traffic that people deal with when you're dealing with tourism. So we can siphon off type of and create, instead of being an equal partner to Ambassador Bridge, we can siphon it and make it use it as a different mechanism. And this could help bridge the gap in some form of negotiation to get it opened up. But honestly, yeah, it should be opened up, and it's shame on everybody that it's not.
Yes, Michelle, can bridge the gap. Very good play on words there.
Ambassador Bridge. I said the Rainbow Bridge. It's the Ambassador
Oh, the Ambassador
Bridge.
Yeah, Rainbow is at the Buffalo border, which is one of 3 ways to cross at Buffalo. But in Detroit, this is just, I guess they have the tunnel. So, Mike, let's talk about, you mentioned the friends of Donald Trump. So, why are they so concerned that that all the traffic really goes across their bridge? Like what kind of revenue do they make from here?
Well, it's millions of dollars because it's a privately owned bridge. And Donald Trump's initial objection to the Gordie Howe Bridge was that it was a Canadian bridge and that the Canadians hadn't paid for it. It was all U.S. paid for, which was absolutely not the case. Mm-hmm. But since when does the Ontario government need an excuse for road construction? Road construction gums everything up. And I think a certain amount of road construction in front of the Ambassador Bridge would be very helpful to try to push for an opening of the Gordie Howe Bridge.
I think this is the guy who needs to be negotiating with the U.S. for CUSMA. I think he knows how to work it. So, Michelle, 10 seconds left. Do you think this is going to open anytime soon?
Yes, it will. It will, because it's part of the negotiating tool. So at the end of the day, they're going to ask for something or something in return for opening this. So it's going to open.
Okay, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Counterpoint. Again, we're joined with our current events panel with Michelle Simard and Mike Patton. Okay, thank you both for joining me again. Let's talk about British Columbia. So we were in Ontario at the Windsor-Detroit Bridge. Okay, so something interesting is happening with the BC Teachers Union. Apparently, they released a calendar that is available to schools and members of their union that referred to July 1st as Land Back Day. Michelle, I'll let you open this one up. What is Land Back Day?
Honestly, I have no idea. And honestly, I don't care at this point. Because at the end of the day, the way I look at it is this. I really don't care what some teachers union that got no consent from anybody, not informed, not explicit, not express, no consent anywhere. And they decide to put out this calendar with Land Back Day. In some passive aggressive way to try to push some political agenda that they have. And for me, I just don't want to give them the airtime to even discuss what Land Back Day is. As far as I'm concerned, it's Canada Day, and that's a day that's to be celebrated by all of Canadians and to be grateful for all our forefathers and people who've done everything to make this country great. So shame on them for not asking for any permission and pushing their agenda the way they have.
Absolutely. And for me, it's actually called Dominion Day. There we go. Look at me.
There you go.
Look at me pushing my ideological agenda. Okay. But in all seriousness, Mike, she talks about consent of the members. And I've seen this complaint oftentimes with many other teachers' unions in various provinces in this country where the members kind of feel a certain way, but then the union kind of goes rogue and starts just kind of dictating ideological agendas that are going to happen. Like, it's like, did you survey the members? No. Why are we talking about this? Who asked for this? Like, aren't you supposed to help us in like arbitration and negotiation for wages and rights of the workers? But this is I think beyond that. What do you think?
Well, it's really interesting because more and more there seems to be a divide between rank and file union members in all sorts of different unions and the leadership. The leadership is very interested in no longer just in wage issues, but in progressive community issues. They want a free Palestine. They want more gay rights. They want all these progressive things pushed. Whereas the membership increasingly in a lot of unions is becoming more and more conservative. They're tired of paying excess taxes and they just want to be left alone. So it's really interesting how union members are now moving to the right while union leadership continues to move to the left. And this is going to cause real problems for the union movement in the long run.
Well, and I think we saw a lot of this in the United States in the previous election. I mean, a bulk of Donald Trump voters were in the working class union members, rank and file union members. And they want clearly a very more conservative approach to governance. I mean, how that's transpired, we'll see now coming up to the midterms. But, while the leadership, I think he did have some union endorsement, but the leadership seems to have gone in a different trajectory. It is quite interesting. You speak about dues, Mike, and that's a very good point. All members of a union pay dues. And so through this money, you're actually kind of funding this ideological agenda. And look, workers' rights, sometimes if depending on the industry, environmental protections, I get all that. But what do teachers have to do with Indigenous and ancestral lands? I mean, frankly, if this teachers union, and you can jump in here, either of you, if the teachers are very concerned about ancestral lands and that the government has done wrong by them in negotiation, that in this case the BC government, then why are you an employee of the BC government? Because that's what teachers are. And two, why are you going to work on stolen land? I mean, follow this to the logical conclusion. Give the land back. Michelle?
Well, I think that's going a little far because at the end of the day, people need a job. This is what they went for. This is where they got employed. But yes, the BC government has gone very left on these things. And how many days are we going to celebrate? We have many days that talk about acknowledgement. Every child matters. We have reconciliation. Like, there's a lot of acknowledgements that happen. How far do we go? And if we are going to go that far, it can't be this passive aggressive. It has to be something that is fully discussed. It's tabled. We get consent. And then even if you get consent to even say that, what is the next steps? What are they like? Do they expect teachers to then push this on to the students, to the
Yes.
parents? Was there guidance on this? What was the expectations? Were they expecting a free for all? There was no guidance on this. It was just put out there. And I sit there and say, it's an irresponsible act to do with no form of consent. And I sit there and say, how far do you go? And how far do you want to push your political agenda in order for you to get some type of political capital, I suppose. That's what these unions are trying to do instead of doing the job that they're supposed to do.
Okay, well, I think that's it for now. We're going to be right back with another topic in just a few moments. Welcome back to Counterpoint. We're covering a lot of current events with Michelle Simard and Mike Patton. Michelle, August 1st is going to be a fun day for you. There's new legislation coming into town, and I know how much you like the law because you're a lawyer. So on August 4th, there will be a Foreign Influence Registry starting. So this is for agents of foreign governments to register that they're operational, lobbying, negotiating, whatever in Canada. So interestingly, I was looking into this topic. So first of all, just be aware that the Five Eyes, that's a security kind of consortium with 5 different countries, most of them have similar legislation. So that's interesting. So Canada's a little late to the table here. That's okay. Guess which, I'll ask both of you, guess which country is most active operating in Canada? Michelle? China, Mike?
India.
No, it's actually China. But close. Yeah, actually, you know what? The impetus for this probably was that killing of that Canadian by the Indian government. Anyway, so Michelle, why don't you unpack about this registry and why it's needed?
So, we have the Five Eyes, which we have the United States, England, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. And of course, obviously, there's 7 eyes, 9 eyes, and so forth, right? And what makes the Five Eyes is because we're all from the Commonwealth at some point, right? And so that's where there's like that shared information. And so there's a lot of things. And, in the last year or so with Donald Trump, their U.S. security and intelligence has decided that they don't want to share certain things with Canada anymore because they don't feel that we are safe enough. Especially with our borders, especially when Mark Carney became prime minister. These were some of the issues, right? And so obviously when Justin Trudeau was prime minister, they initiated this registry in order to be compatible with countries like England, United States, and Australia, who do already have agencies like this, and it's going to come into effect, and we're going to have our commissioner who does this. It's about time that it happened. We needed something like this to happen. I think it's very important. I think that it took this long, but I think it will be executed well because it took that long. While it should have been sooner, I think that sometimes haste does really make waste. So we could have put it out there, but then we also ran the risk of it being mucked up. So I think this might be good that we've waited. It's a long time coming. It should have been a lot sooner, but hopefully it'll be executed well, and we're going to see good things to come from it. And we might be back into the circle again with the United States, seeing that we have something like this in there. And we really do need that because the Five Eyes is a very important intelligence circle that Canada needs to be in.
No, absolutely. Mike, do you think this will be an effective tool to counter foreign interference? And we know there's a lot of foreign interference in this government, in this country, rather. We've seen it with elections, the allegations of even from members of parliament. We mentioned about the killing of that Canadian, where the factions of the Indian government or the Indian population were implicated. Will this be an effective tool?
Well, it's a good start because if I am paid by Walmart, if Walmart wants American diapers brought into Canada duty-free, and I'm paid by Walmart to speak to legislators to try to make that change to legislation, I have to register. If I work for a nonprofit like the Canadian Cancer Society, and I'm lobbying the government on pesticides, I have to register my meetings. But if I'm working for China or India or Russia trying to influence the Canadian government, I don't have to register. So it is a good first step because that way we know who's being paid by foreign governments to lobby. Whether it's going to be effective in the long run, it's not going to be enough. We really need to keep an eye on foreign money and how it's influencing politicians and political campaigns and social media, because it's having an enormous influence right now, and it's completely unmonitored by the federal government.
Wow. So hopefully it will have teeth. And I agree this will be potentially another, not bargaining chip, but another thing we can say, hey, look, US, we passed something that you probably wanted us to. So here we go. It might put us in better position for negotiating CUSMA, right, Michelle?
Yes, but also it can be used as a legal tool, an instrument, because now you have something that's in writing. And if somebody doesn't declare it, then you have legal grounds to use it. So the ultimate goal, what you were talking about, Mike, is obviously to achieve less foreign interference. This is, and like you said, this is a step towards it. It is not the be all and end all, but it is the first step that we need for a legal basis in order to go after people. So that's why it's absolutely needed. That's why the other Five Eyes have it. We need this to push on a legal aspect. Everything else, yes, I expect us to wrap it up quicker and faster.
Okay, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Counterpoint. I'm joined by the current events panel with Michelle Simard and Mike Patton. Okay, we're going to switch gears. This has been a case that has been sort of percolating for the last few months, but there's been some kind of recent developments in terms of seeking a review for not a legal judgment, but a judgment from the Registrar of Ontario. So I'll kind of start it off, and Mike, maybe you could really unpack this for me. But an Ontario couple is basically facing debt of upwards of $1 million at the behest of the provincial government of Ontario because they uncovered bones on their property. Okay, Mike, explain what's going on here.
So imagine, if you will, you're getting renovations done in the house and it requires some excavation to expand the footprint of the house. And while the company is excavating, they come across human remains. So the police are called, the coroner is invoked, the bones are packaged up, taken to the coroner, and they find it's not from a crime scene, but the bones are 1,000 years old. This is now become an archaeological site. And the nightmare for this family is unbelievable. Because it's an archaeological site, construction has to stop. They can't sell the property. It's got to be held by the current owner, and a proper excavation has to be done because of the age of the bones. And the onus is on the property owner to pay for the archaeological excavation, which could go as high as $1 million. So you've got to, it is going to exceed the value of the property to be properly excavated as the provincial government is requiring.
And just to add some more context before we throw it to you, Michelle. So this is a couple who's nearing the age of retirement. They bought this. It's actually quite a small parcel of land on a lake. So it's like a lakefront house, very simple house, nothing fancy. And this was their retirement house. Yeah. And so they just wanted to kind of renovate it. I think they're just putting a second story at one point, but maybe they had to do some underpinning, hence the excavation. And not huge excavation, just dug a little. And then, they did the right thing. I want people to do the right thing. You find bones, unless you're some kind of forensics expert, you don't know how old these bones are. And even still, you report. And they're now, the registrar for the Ontario government that oversees the handling of remains and cremations and things like that, basically said, well, you can afford to take a line of credit or take a loan. We're not going to give you money for this. You should do it. These are not wealthy individuals. They're retired. Michelle, this seems so extreme.
It is.
How does anybody want to buy a house anymore? I'm scared to, I don't know, dig a hole anymore. What if I find something?
Well, not to promote more lawyers, but at the end of the day, this is why it's good to have real estate lawyers who, it's important. Some people forgo to get surveys of land and to see things, and likely this would have never happened because it's over 1,000 years old and it goes
Correct.
beyond that, right? But there was an existing dwelling on it, and then my perplexes me is a little bit is what happened with that existing? I would want to dig it up. And of course, now they have to be represented, through, the Canadian Constitution Foundation. And obviously they need donations because, it's an undue burden that the government has put on these people. And they need restitution for that because they have been put under an onus that they can't fulfill. And at the end of the day, in contract law, what happens over that is that you can go sue for that. So there's a legitimate cause of action here. And I do believe that they should be successful. I can't believe the Ontario government is not supporting him in this, given the high
they
cost
created
of
the
it.
law 10 years ago,
But
and not this particular government, the one
they
before.
could be supporting them more. The idea behind the law is if you're building a highway or building a hospital and you're doing massive excavations and you come across a major burial site, it should be dealt with. But the thinking was it would be dealt with by the provincial government or a municipality, not an individual homeowner. And the bureaucracy should really be looking at this and feeling some compassion for these people and finding a way to work with them and help them out so that, first of all, we want this archaeological site to be properly discovered, but at the same time, it's unfair to put the burden on just one retiring family.
And Michelle, if this goes sideways and they stick this bill to this couple, don't you think this would disincentivize others from even reporting if they discovered something? And what if it's like a murder victim from a missing person? Like, you'd want to know where the bones are, where the remains are, their loved one. Anyhow, it's quite interesting. We're going to have to keep our eyes on this because it is a developing case. But
yeah, there's more to come. There's more to come, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you both so much. Always a pleasure. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.